The main battle of the season, the Opera Wars, is introduced right away in HBO's The Gilded Age Season 2, Episode 1, You Don't Even Like Opera. In 1883, Bertha Russell has successfully risen to the pinnacles of New York society, but she still craves more. She is specifically looking for an opera box. Bertha defines an opera box when her adoring husband George, the robber baron, remarks, as the episode's title suggests, that she doesn't even enjoy opera. It's more of a gateway to social opportunities than a seat for a performance. Bertha also plans to use her riches and influence to support the establishment of the Metropolitan Opera House, a rival theater, if she is unable to get a box at the Academy of Music, the opera house preferred by the old guard. Yes, Season 2 of The Gilded Age will provide an explanation of how the Metropolitan Opera came to be recognized as a major force in modern society. It's a juicy tale in that the new money matrons, offended by the Academy patrons' refusal to include them, actually founded the Met. And the story is so well known among opera enthusiasts that on his first job interview, Julian Fellowes, the creator of The Gilded Age, was questioned about it by Bob Shaw, the production designer. Approximately 5 years ago, during my interview for the show, I suppose I inquired, "Will you be interested in the Opera Wars?" And you know, I believe that was one of the things that suggested I would have been the right candidate for the position. Shaw said in a recent online press conference for Season 2 of The Gilded Age. The robber barons of the 19th century rocked New York society to its foundation, as The Gilded Age depicts. Up until the Industrial Revolution, produced a new class of mega-wealthy with surnames like Carnegie, Vanderbilt, and Rockefeller. The wealthiest families in American high society were made up of a variety of families who had been in the country before the American Revolution. The new money people were despised by these old money families for their flashy behavior and unbridled ambition. Even though new money ladies like Alva Vanderbilt, who served as Bertha Russell's primary inspiration, and old money power figures like Caroline Lena Astor reluctantly interacted with them, there remained one setting in which they might still be excluded. The Academy of Music was that. 1854 saw the opening of the Academy of Music at the intersection of Irving Place and East 14th Street. It was intended to take the place of the recently closed Astor Opera House and serve as a gathering place for New Yorkers who are considered to be among the wealthiest in the upper 10,000. Up until the new money moved into town, it remained the mainstay of upper-class culture, even holding a reception for the Prince of Wales in 1860. There was absolutely no room for the new money families to butt in at the Academy because the private boxes were occupied by families who had invested in the theater from the start. To provide funding for a new theater big enough to fit the Goulds, Morgans, and Vanderbilts who were dying to have their own opera boxes, the Metropolitan Opera Association was established in 1880. On October 22, 1883, the first Metropolitan Opera House, also known as the Old Met, opened at 1411 Broadway, between 39th and 40th Streets. The show that featured Swedish soprano Christine Nilsson in the role of Marguerite was a performance of Faust. American novelist Edith Wharton mentions the Opera Wars and the fact that Nilsson, a superstar at the moment, had done the identical role at the Academy only a few years earlier at the start of the Age of Innocence. The Old Met was dubbed the Yellow Brick Brewery because to its unimpressive industrial facade. But it quickly gained enormous popularity, which sped up the Academy of Music's demise. The Academy decided to end its opera season in 1886, and by 1888, vaudeville shows had taken over the facility. After a fire nearly destroyed the Old Met in 1892, modifications were made to bring it back to its original layout. The 1900s saw more substantial renovations and improvements. After the present Metropolitan Opera House at Lincoln Center opened its doors in 1967, the Old Met was finally demolished. The extent to which the Gilded Age creator Julian Fellowes adheres to this history will have to wait until you see the entire season. Nevertheless, it appears from the start of the Gilded Age, Season 2, that HBO is sticking fairly closely to the historical account. Alva Vanderbilt was a fervent supporter of the Metropolitan Opera, and it is evident from her fictitious replacement, Bertha Russell, that she intends to win the Opera War. Replacing Bertha's adversary, Astor Caroline, she was undoubtedly one of the strongest fighters in the Academy. More fascinating still, Christina Nilsson's portrayal of Marguerite from the second season of The Gilded Age's Faust is already teased. Thus, HBO's The Gilded Age has accurately portrayed history, but for the fact that Bertha Russell is directing the action rather than real-life Gilded Age character Alva Vanderbilt,